Welcome to Let's Think About It with Dr. E. This is an opportunity for you to engage into deep issues and topics that shape our world. We're challenging the norms today. We're really going to dive into something that I think is going to shake up the status quo. Today's topic is, don't overstay your welcome. Leave like a boss. Let me say it again. Don't overstay your welcome. Leave like a boss. When I was in college, my dad gave me some great advice that I still use to this day. He said, whenever y'all going out with your girlfriends, y'all going to the club, where you go, he said, make sure you know where all the exits are. I didn't really understand it growing up. He's like, know the exit doors whenever you go into any spot. Because in the event there was an emergency or something break out, a fight, or whatever, you know how to get out. So one of my brothers, we grew up together. He's part of the Divine Nine. They had a party. So we went to this particular location in Charlotte. I went to PWI there in Charlotte my freshman year. We went to this location, had a party. It was a one-way in and a one-way out. Next morning we woke up, it was burned completely down. The place was burned completely down. And we were thinking about the fact, what if we all would have been in there and that fire would have broke out? And we only had one way into this place. And so I thought about the fact that whenever you are going to make an exit, know when to leave. Some people overstay their welcome. Have you ever invited people to your house and they don't know when to leave? You hint around like, well, yeah, it's time for me to get ready for work the next day. It's time to go to bed. They keep talking and talking. You don't want to be rude. And you don't want to say to them, listen, it's time for you to go. You're going to overstay your welcome. I got to go to bed. You really don't want to say you don't be rude, so you try to be nice. Well, my dad, he just gets up and walks out the room, and he leaves us. I often say, my daddy, why did you leave us in the room? He's like, I can't stay in there and keep talking. Like, don't they know when to go home? And so sometimes I realize something, that what this week has shown us, with President Joe Biden, he left like a boss. On June 27, America witnessed the debate between Trump and President Joe Biden. We all recognized that something wasn't right. It didn't go over well. President Biden, he already has a stutter. He stammered over his word. He wasn't at his best. And it caused the world to question Biden's mental stability, his ability to lead the country, and was he actually good for the party? So my first instinct was maybe he just had a bad night. He'll bounce back. But as the weeks proceeded and more conversation came, and they began to talk about, is Biden mentally and physically able to carry the country for the next 4 years? I began to step back and look at his physical health, his mental health, his conversation, slurred speech, his slow to respond. Now, granted, he's old. He's 80-some years old. And as you get older, you slow down. But I realized it was a much bigger picture here. But I listened to the news outlets, and they realized, was he good for the people? Today we're talking about overstaying your welcome. Leave like a boss. It may have taken Biden three weeks to realize that he needed to exit, but I don't think he came to that conclusion by himself. I think his team, his family, those around him that cared about him, they helped him come to the conclusion, you've been successful. You've been in politics almost 50-some years. While you were in high school, you aspired to be the president of the United States, and you did that. Why put yourself through 4 more years? Because it's a hard job. We look at President Obama. When he went in, he was not gray-haired. He came out, he was all white. His hair had turned gray because it's a stressful environment. But I believe they said, Joe, if you come out, we got to have an exit plan. Who do we know, or who can we put before us that can run the country? He made the only choice that we feel like is the best choice, is Kamala Harris, his vice president. Now, I know some of you all are going to say this is not the best choice, but for 4 years, she's helped him run the country. So why not use her as a viable point? But secondly, I believe that during the pandemic, a lot of pastors realized it was time for them to exit. They didn't know how to pivot to pastor from a camera. They were used to call and response. They were used to people. Now they had to come to an empty sanctuary, preach a sermon with nobody in there, and they didn't know how to do it. So a lot of senior pastors over the pandemic period exited. I'm gonna give you some alarming facts. There are 1,200 pastors a week who leave their pulpit. Did you hear what I said? 1,200 pastors a week leave their pulpits because of stress, because of anxiety, and simply because they realize they can no longer do it at the capacity. The average church attendance in person is 300. The average virtual engagement is anywhere from 500 to 800. And look at those numbers. 300 on the average come in person, but there's an average 500 to 800 who virtually. So you ask yourself, what is more healthy for me? To try to do in person weekly or to engage virtually? There's some pastors that do it very well. They can do the in person and virtually very well, but there are some that can only do in person. So what I encourage pastors, hire you a virtual pastor. You don't have to learn how to do it all. You were not designed to do it all at one time. That's why you have a team. It's a team effort. You are not the coach, the player, the first base, third base, second. You're not it. You're not. Listen to what I'm saying. You are not. You cannot do it all. You were not designed to do that. So the question is, how do I pastor in person, online? And for many of the pastors, the question is, I can't. You don't have the capacity to engage both the listeners and stay focused on your sermon in the building and online. So now the question remains, am I still effective as a pastor? Absolutely you are. Don't tell yourself you're not effective because you can't do both. You can only do some things, one thing at a time. Some people cannot multitask. I am a two-task person. Listen to what I'm saying. I know my capability. Give me 2 tasks. Let me do those well, and then let me move to the next 2 tasks. Some people try to say I can do 5 or 10 things. I will mess it absolutely up. It will be a disaster. So I'm not even gonna lie to you all and tell you I can do 10 things at one time, because I cannot. I'll be transparent. There are many leaders, business owners, pastors who have stayed past their prime. Listen to me. And they've done more harm than good. Know when your time and season is up. When you stay past your season, there are 3 things that happen. Resentment of the people and the position. Why didn't I know or recognize the signs when it was time for me to leave? Pastors, it's okay to retire at a decent age and enjoy your latter years. Sometimes you stay and you die in the pulpit. We've seen it. I don't want to stay in a position, in a place till I'm old and decrepit. I can't move. I can't enjoy life. I can't enjoy my family. And now I got to go home and die. No, I want to leave at a decent age so I can enjoy the rest of my life. Number 2, you become disconnected from the people that you pastor. Your only goal is just to prepare a sermon and then go home and do nothing else. No, your goal is you don't want to resent the people that you say you love. Number 3, you start to lack empathy for the people and their situation. But in your head, you keep telling yourself, I gotta stay. But your body's telling you, I gotta leave. I've done this. Don't have a bitter breakup with your congregation. Let me say it again. Don't have a bitter breakup with your congregation. You know, it's something to be in a relationship and it's a bitter breakup. But it's something to have a bitter breakup with a whole group of people and you don't know how to repair that. So a lot of pastors have left their congregations torn, traumatic. Now the next pastor comes in. They got to work overtime to heal the people, to put the people back together again. They got to love on the people. They got to do all this extra work because you left the people traumatic. You left them resentful. And for some people, you left them hating you. But let's just be honest. You don't want to be that. So you may be asking yourself, how do I know when I should leave? Number one, when the people no longer know your sound. Your voice becomes foreign to them. They no longer hear the word of God. They just hear wah, 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 wah. You know Charlie Brown. You know that. They no longer know your sound. Number two, your message has become toxic. It's more harmful. It's not intentional. You become more venting from the pulpit, and you're no longer ministering to the needs of the people. Number three, your family stops supporting you because they have become tired of seeing you tired, and you feel like you have to save everybody, but who's going to save you? A lot of pastors, their families start to resent them because they see you tired, they see you worn out. You go to the hospital, somebody dies, you have to go show up. Somebody's child is in a sport activity, they want my pastor to come and see him. You can't do it all. So, save yourself. They tell you on a plane, first, save yourself. You pull your mask down, you reach under your seat and get your flotation device first before you help anybody else. Because if you can't save yourself, you can't save anybody else. Because you're so tired, you're so exhausted. Know when to exit. Finally, President Biden showed us a lot. But I want you to leave you with these two things that he told us in his speech. He did self-reflection and assessment. He emphasized the importance of regular self-reflection to assess your effectiveness and satisfaction in your leadership role. He showed us that he was satisfied where he was. Now, was it more that he wanted to accomplish? Absolutely. But I feel like he let us know that he was satisfied, that he was leaving the country in good hands. Number two, encourage leaders to recognize signs of burnout, diminishing their passion, or their sense that they've achieved the vision and the goal. His vision and goal was to make sure that he did not tear his party down. And he felt that at this point, he wanted to leave the party in a good position. He didn't want them to resent him leaving out. He wanted to leave a legacy and a long-term vision. Legacy is important. It's important to leave a legacy. Discuss the significance of leaving a lasting legacy and ensuring the continued success of the organization. He said something in his speech. He said, I'm the first sitting president that we're not at war. Every president has been at war at some point. He's trying to help end the war over in Gaza and Hamas. He's trying to help them come to some resolve. And I know the country want him to come in to cease war and to stop it. All he can do is aid and encourage. We cannot stop those people over there in Israel because they've been fighting since the Bible days. This has been going on far long before Biden took office. And I hate to tell you, it's going to keep going. Highlight how important stepping down and the right time to do it. I know he had mixed emotions about stepping down, but I believe his family and he knew this was the time to do it. Let me do it at a moment when I can leave with dignity and I can leave with respect. You want the respect of the people in your business, in your organization. I often tell people this. The business world writes a succession plan. In the church, we never write a succession plan. We never write a plan that someone's going to come in and succeed me, take over my position as pastor. You don't want to stay in that position forever. One of my mentors in Atlanta, he wrote a succession plan for someone to come in 2 years before he retired. He brought the person in, and for 2 years he walked them through his congregation to show them, for him to understand their language, understand the culture, understand the people, so that when he left them in good hands. And to this day, he said that's the best decision he ever made. So he trained pastors, write a succession plan. Leave them in good hands so that you don't have to worry about them whenever you retire. Church, leave a plan. If the secular world can leave a plan, you leave a plan. One of my favorite country singers, Kenny Rogers, he said it this way. He said, know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. Never count your money sitting at the table. There'll be time enough to count them when the deal is done. Seal the deal and then walk away. Because there'll be time enough for you to live your life beyond where you are. You don't want to die where you are. You have life left in you. Live your life like a boss, because you want to know that there's much life left in you. Because whenever time leaves, but guess what this? Time never stops. It never stops. I looked up, I wanted to be 16 so bad. No, I wanted to be 13. Then I wanted to be 16. Then I wanted to be 21. Then I wanted to be 25. Then I wanted to be 30. Then I wanted to be 40. Then when 50 came, I said, 50 is not a bad age. I think I'm settled in 50. People are like, well, I don't want nobody to know my age. I want to know because I could have died at 38. I had my first 2 strokes at 38. I'm thankful that I lived to see 50. Some people are like, I'm about to share. Yes, I'm 50, and I'll live to see October 10th, I'll be 51. So I'm thankful for my age. So for those of y'all that want to tell the people your age, shame on y'all. I'm glad I lived to see 50 because I could have died at 38. So I'm grateful for my life. Leave like a boss and know when to exit. Don't overstay your welcome. Don't let people have to walk you out. Walk out on your own 2 feet. Because I promise you, if you leave like a boss, when the doors are time for you to open, to come and be a guest speaker, to come in and mentor somebody, you'll come in with vitality and you'll come in with much life. Thank you for tuning in for this episode. Let's think about it. Stay strong, stay blessed, and let's keep thinking about it.